Tokyo, 1978. A specification sheet goes out to dealers with a number on it that is meant to end an argument. 270 watts per channel, both channels driven. Underneath the number is a receiver, toroidal transformers, 22,000 microfarads of capacitance, 2 completely independent power supplies, and a pair of black-faced power meters that on any normal evening barely move. It is called the SX1980. It costs $1,295, which is somewhere around $5,500 in today's money. And it does end the argument. Pioneer wins. This is the story of Pioneer, and it is not the story of a company that lost. Marantz was destroyed by refusing to compromise. Avery Fisher compromised perfectly, sold at exactly the right moment, and lost his name anyway. Pioneer is the third case, and it is the strangest of the three, because Pioneer won. It won the largest fight its industry ever had, outright, and winning bought it nothing. And then, 30 years later, it did the same thing again, and the second time, it was fatal. Pioneer died twice of being the best. It begins with a man being jealous of a sound. In 1932, a young Japanese engineer named Nozomu Matsumoto hears a Western-built dynamic loudspeaker for the first time. It is a Philco, and what comes out of it is unlike anything being made at home. He is 26, born in Kobe to the family of a Christian missionary, and the household matters here because it names what comes next. He decides that the tone he has just heard should be available in Japan, and that he is going to be the one who makes it. It takes him the better part of 5 years. In a small workshop in Osaka, he founds a company called Fukuin Shokai Denki Seisakusho, which translates as Gospel Electric Works. The company's own history dates the founding to 1938. After roughly a year of experiments, he and a colleague finish a dynamic speaker they call the A8, and Matsumoto gives it a name in English. He calls it Pioneer. Note the order of that. The brand was a speaker before it was a company. The name was invented for a product, not for a corporation, by a man who had heard one American loudspeaker and spent 5 years chasing it. In 1938, he moves the operation to Tokyo. The war comes and takes the decade. In 1947, he incorporates again as Fukuin Electric and starts over. What the company becomes over the next 25 years is the thing this audience actually remembers. By the beginning of the 1970s, Pioneer is making the objects that define what a stereo is supposed to look like. Brushed aluminum faceplates, a wide backlit dial, a row of toggles, meters. Collectors call it the Silver Era, and they still pay for it. The SX9000 arrives in 1970 and stays on the market about 3 years. And then Pioneer does something that changes the rules for everybody. It puts out the SX1010, the receiver widely credited as the first rated at 100 watts RMS per channel. That is not a product launch. That is an opening shot. Kenwood answers it. Marantz answers it. Yamaha and Sansui answer it. For the next 5 years, the entire Japanese and American audio industry competes on a single axis, watts per channel, printed on the front of the box, and the machines get bigger and heavier and more absurd every year. The trade press calls it the receiver wars, and it produces the most over-engineered consumer electronics ever sold to ordinary people. It is worth being clear about what these things actually were, because nothing like them is sold today. A top receiver of this period is a single box that contains the radio, the preamplifier, and the power amplifier all at once, built to a standard that no accountant would now approve. The faceplate is machined aluminum. The dial is lit from behind. The knobs are weighted so they turn like something in a car. Inside are transformers big enough to be a fire risk if you dropped one on your foot. They were sold in ordinary shops to ordinary people on the strength of a number printed on the front. And that is the part which is genuinely strange in hindsight. For about 5 years, the mass market bought engineering the way it normally buys horsepower. There is a reason the numbers were worth fighting over, and it is not a marketing reason, it is a regulator. In 1974, after open hearings, the United States Federal Trade Commission issued what became known as the Amplifier Rule, a uniform standard for how amplifier power could be measured and advertised, including preconditioning every amplifier at 1/8 of its rated power for a full hour before anyone was allowed to measure it. Before that rule, a watt was whatever the marketing department said it was. After it, a watt was a watt. The regulator is the reason the number on the faceplate meant something, and therefore the reason it was worth going to war over. And while all of this is happening in the living room, there is a document filed in Washington that almost nobody notices. On the 20th of April 1970, a United States design patent application is filed for the appearance of a tape player for vehicles. It is granted the following year as USD 222069. The named inventor is not a staff designer. It is Nozomu Matsumoto, the founder himself. At the exact moment his company is about to conquer the American living room, the man whose name is on the door is personally putting his name on a car radio. Remember that, because it is the ending. The war goes on. In 1974 comes the SX-939. In 1976, the SX-1250, 160 watts aside for about $900, which a great many people who know these machines will tell you is the best receiver Pioneer ever built. And in 1978, the SX-1980 and the specification sheet from the beginning of this story. You can watch the effort in the paperwork. On a single day, the 9th of November 1978, Pioneer filed 4 separate loudspeaker design patents in the United States. 4 in one day at the exact peak. This is what a company pressing as hard as it can looks like from the outside, and it is the last moment at which pressing hard was the right thing to be doing. Because then the receiver wars end, and they end in the most anticlimactic way imaginable. Nobody surrenders. There is no scandal, no recall, no collapse. Around 1979 and 1980, the buyers simply stop wanting the thing being fought over. Serious listeners move to separates. Everyone else moves to compact all-in-one systems. And then, within a few years, to the compact disc, which resets the entire market and makes the specification that Pioneer had won on irrelevant. Pioneer had built the best big receiver in the world, and the category evaporated underneath it. The record shows the company understanding this almost immediately. In January 1980, within weeks of each other, Pioneer filed United States design patents for the appearance of 2 new products, an amplifier and a tuner, not a receiver. The 2 halves of a receiver sold as separate boxes by the company that had just won the receiver war. The war was over, and the winner had already moved on to selling the pieces. Look at what the company files in 1983, and you can see it turning. In 1 year, a design patent for a digital audio disc player, and a design patent for an automobile combined stereo receiver and cassette player. 2 futures, on paper, in the same 12 months. The CD and the car. The company takes the CD future, and it does very well for 20 years. And then it makes the same bet a second time. In the 2000s, Pioneer decides to win television. It builds plasma panels under the name KURO, and by common consent among people who calibrate televisions for a living, the KURO produced the finest picture that had ever been made. Black was actually black. Nothing else came close. To build them, Pioneer spent something close to $1 billion. 4 plasma plants of its own, plus 2 more bought from NEC. The video division lost money year after year after year. It was the best television anyone had ever made, and it was not a business. In 2009, Pioneer exited plasma. In 2010, it quit making televisions altogether and fell back on car electronics, which is now the only large thing it has left. That is where the ending comes from, and it comes quickly. In September 2018, with a debt deadline closing in, Pioneer took a $540 million lifeline from Baring Private Equity Asia. It was projecting an operating loss of around 5 billion yen for the year to March 2019, and the bleeding was in the 12-volt business, the car division, to the tune of 5.5 billion yen on its own. The rescue did not hold. In 2019, Baring bought Pioneer outright for around $904 million and took it off the Tokyo Stock Exchange after 80 years as a listed company. Roughly 2,500 people, about 15% of the workforce, lost their jobs. And then Pioneer was sold on again for about $1.1 billion to a Taiwanese smart cockpit manufacturer called KURO. The name that meant the finest sound in an American living room now belongs to a car parts supplier in another country. So the loop closes exactly where the founder left it. In 1970, at the height of the company's assault on home audio, Nozomu Matsumoto put his own name on a design for a car tape player. Car electronics turned out to be the only part of Pioneer that survived the century, and it is the part that was finally sold. He had, without meaning to, filed the company's obituary 50 years early. Fisher lost his name off the front of a building. Pioneer lost its name onto the front of somebody else's dashboard. And what killed it was not complacency, and not cheap competition, and not a bad product. Twice, 40 years apart, Pioneer built the finest thing in its category. And twice, the category stopped mattering before the win could be collected. Being the best is a strategy that only works if the thing you are best at survives long enough to be worth winning. Go back to that specification sheet in 1978. 270 watts aside, both channels driven, an argument settled for good. Every number on it is true. Every one of them was measured honestly under a rule the government wrote. It is one of the great engineering documents of the century, and within about 18 months it will describe a machine that nobody is asking for. Somewhere tonight, one of them is switched on anyway, in somebody's front room, and the meters are barely moving, and the dial is glowing the way it did in 1978, when winning still seemed like it would be worth something. Every week, another giant. Subscribe, because the next one might be gathering dust in your attic.